Earn points for your team.
Hello, welcome to Outside Xbox and to the very first gameplay from OnRush, the first game from the developer formerly known as Evolution Studios. You might remember them as the people who are behind Motorstorm, Drive Club, and if you're a terrible motorsport wonk like me, the old PS2 WRC games as well. Look, just trust me when I say they were really good, okay? I might not end up naming one of my children WRC4, but it's definitely in the running. OnRush is the team's first crack at a game on Xbox, and to look at it, you'd be forgiven for thinking it was just Motorstorm with a pastel paint job.
Vehicle failure.
But to wheel out a tired car analogy, there's a lot more going on under the hood. And if you're still watching after those lazy car puns, here are 5 reasons OnRush isn't just Motorstorm all over again. The key difference, and the reason OnRush doesn't play like any racing game we've ever tried before, is the Stampede. And if you still haven't gotten over the death of Mufasa in The Lion King, maybe look away now. R.I.P. King of Pride Rock. The Stampede is essentially a system to make sure you're always in the thick of the action. If you get taken out, have a massive accident, or just fall too far behind the pack, you'll respawn right back in the middle of it. That means you can worry less about nailing the perfect racing line and more about hip-checking an opponent into a nearby pine tree. In addition to your direct competitors, there are also fodder vehicles that are basically exploding barrels on wheels. Get out of my head, OnRush.
So I guess you figured out you ain't racing these guys.
Fodder vehicles are there to help you rack up boost via easy takedowns and ensure that you're never not mashing the nitrous button. They also bring the total number of vehicles in the Stampede up to 24, turning every event into a sort of rolling tsunami of twisted metal. Time to introduce some of these jerks to the circle of life. I may have fundamentally misunderstood the moral message of The Lion King. According to the developers, OnRush takes inspiration not from other racing games, but from multiplayer titles like Overwatch. Wonder what it was about that wildly popular and massively profitable game that first caught their eye.
Takedown.
The most obvious inspiration comes in the class system. Unlike in most arcade racing games, vehicles aren't selected on the basis of how offensive the paint scheme is or which has the most hilarious musical horn.
Enforcer.
Instead, you're actually going to have to focus on practicality, as each vehicle class has a different selection of strengths, weaknesses, and special abilities, and you can pick a new class every time you respawn. Also, like in Overwatch, each vehicle has their equivalent of an ultimate ability, a Rush Ultimate, which combines a greater level of boost with some imaginative way to ruin your opponent's day. The Titan's ultimate, for example, is called Blockade and drops a series of glowing blocks that will slow down any enemy racers behind. The Charger can bulldoze through opponents ahead of them, and the Blade Bike creates a Tron light cycle trail that immediately takes down any enemy that crosses it. Tactical depth will come from picking not just the class that suits your own style, but that suits the particular mode you're playing. Tactical depth in a racing game? What next? Sonic and Mario in the same game?
Competing for the first time in the same arena.
Why was I not informed about this? In order to keep up with the near constant intensity of OnRush's racing, the game has a thumping soundtrack that must be what Tiesto hears when he closes his eyes to go to sleep at night. The difference here is that OnRush's soundtrack is dynamic and changes depending on what you're up to, which gives us warm, fuzzy memories of SSX Tricky. Smash the Rush Ultimate button and you get your own personal rock concert to celebrate your brilliance. I guess I am pretty brilliant. Holding the whole thing together is a DJ who has the same smooth, syrupy delivery as the one from cult classic movie The Warriors.
Now you've been using up boost like it's going out of fashion. Well, that's just fine. See, burning off boost feeds your rush tank. Go ahead, fill it up.
It's always a risky move adding a DJ to a game. For every Razel from SSX Tricky,
Player 1, you're the top dog.
there's a DJ Atomica from SSX 3.
Riders will be charging hard down these newly designed, never-before-seen racetracks where the terrain borders on the insane.
But OnRush seems to have got the balance right, in that we haven't screamed abuse at the screen, immediately muted the thing, and fired up a Spotify playlist instead.
Welcome to OnRush.
It's a low bar since SSX 3, if I'm honest.
Countdown. Select a vehicle. Blade.
Bad news if you don't play well with others. Unlike most racing games, OnRush is a strictly team-based affair, even if you're playing in single player. It's all about each player and their class of vehicle contributing to ultimate victory for the whole squad. Sounds a lot like Communism the racing game, now that I think about it. Anyway, because it's team-based, it means that even the campaign mode can be played entirely in co-op without messing with your hero's journey. It also allows for teams to coordinate so that there's an even spread of complementary vehicle classes. Again, this is basically motorised Overwatch. Team play doesn't mean there isn't a chance for individual glory and a smug sense of superiority though. Awards will be dished out at the end of each match, identifying the MVP, who survived the longest, who performed the most assists, and so on. There might be no I in team, but there is definitely one in I just won this cool award, sucks to be you guys. 2 in fact. There's at least one person who's going to be out of a job in OnRush's new take on racing, the poor schmuck who usually waves the checkered flag. OnRush events are resolutely not races, and there's no finish line. Events just continue until one or other of the teams has racked up enough cumulative points to take the victory over a series of rounds that end and begin while the Stampede is still in motion. Finishing first on the road doesn't exist in OnRush.
Get back up! Come on, get back up!
We've so far played 2 of the 4 modes that will be included in the game. Overdrive is all about racking up and deploying boost to score points, with the team that hits the score limit first winning the round. And while we would never condone violence here on Outside Xbox, I'd just like to point out that your opponent can't be using their boost if you just slam them into a wall. Make of that what you will.
Rampage.
Countdown mode is probably the closest the game gets to traditional racing, with each checkpoint adding vital seconds to your team's clock that's ticking down. Smart teams will have one quick player in a faster class of vehicle that can accumulate boost without having to rely on takedowns, and then the rest of the squad as blockers to protect them. Dumb teams will just get stuck in, hope for the best, and probably have just as much fun regardless. Of course, the lack of a finish line does mean that unlike Motorstorm, you can't detonate your engine over the line. We'll definitely miss that. So there you go, there's a look at OnRush, a racing game that throws out the bathwater and dropkicks the baby into space. It plays like no racing game we've ever tried before and is a lot closer to Overwatch than most games in its genre. But has it piqued your interest? Let us know in the comments and like and subscribe for much more from Outside Xbox. And if you'd like to watch something else right now, why not click on this video in the middle here about times video game cars broke all the rules. See you next time!